Okay, right, so what we're going to do, we're going to have a go at doing some isometric and then perspective sketching. So you've seen the sheet before with various different isometric objects on there. If you've not already done so, you can simply get a piece of paper and trace over the top of it just to kind of get a feel for what isometric looks like and how it feels when you draw it. What we're going to have a go at doing now then is how to draw some of these objects on their own without tracing them, and also looking at some objects in real life that you could draw rather than copying them from a picture. So, first kind of thing, like you saw from the video, the lines are either vertical lines or off at 30 degrees. So to draw a simple shape, you usually start off with the vertical line to begin with. So you need to find the corner of an object. We'll have a look at some simple shapes in a second, some kind of square objects, boxes, erasers, mobile phones, etc. So you start off with the vertical line. The other lines then are at 30 degrees, and this is where we were talking about using the sheet to know what 30 degrees kind of feels like. As an alternative as well, we have got some isometric grid paper. If you ask your teacher, then you can use this and you can put a piece of paper over the top of it and you can trace through to see what the 30 degrees is. So you've got something like that, so you've got kind of a Y shape. After that, the lines at the bottom are parallel with these top ones. So parallel meaning they're the same distance apart, they will never meet. Okay? Then vertical lines again, depending on how big your object is. And again, these lines are parallel with that centre one. And then finally, putting the top on, again at 30 degrees. Okay? So you can see we're not using a ruler, just want you to try and get a feeling for what isometric kind of feels like and looks like to begin with. Okay, so what we'll have a look at now is trying to draw some of the shapes that you've seen before on the sheet. So we'll have a look at doing the this kind of the L shape. So the first thing I think to do is just to get used to being able to draw a range of different squares. So some kind of standard squares, some that are long, and it should be a quick kind of process. It's sketching, so we're not using a ruler, and you should be able to understand and be able to get these kind of 30-degree lines. One quite nice way of doing it, if you're not sure, you can get the isometric paper, put it underneath, and you can trace through just to kind of see how close you are to those angles. Okay, so if I trace through here, again I'm not using a ruler, it's a lot quicker without. Okay, so you can see the one that I did and the one that I've just traced are very, very similar. That line goes slightly higher than that, but it's near enough. Okay, so practice first of all getting used to kind of the angles that you use. Next thing then, so we'll have a go at doing this step, so starting to get a little bit more complex. So again, I usually start off with a vertical line, and then we have a look at these 30-degree angles. Like so. And then all of these parts will go off at 30 degrees the other way. And then this side of the shape is going to be the same as this. So anything that you've done here, you do here. So I've got a vertical line, I'll do a vertical line. Goes off at 30 degrees, same sort of thing. Goes up, and goes over at 30 degrees. Okay. If you do it lightly in pencil, which I'd recommend for all of this, then afterwards you can go over it a bit darker. So the point of isometric sketching is to get your ideas across in 3D, so you can understand what things look like. Okay. The other things that you can do with this then, maybe we can put a hole in it. So if we wanted to make this so this isn't actually solid here, it's hollow, we can just follow the shape of the outside of it. Like so. Now we're missing a line on there to make it look like you can actually see inside it. It's kind of one across there. Now the way that that kind of falls looks a little bit odd. So if we show you kind of here as well, we have to draw a hole in there. Again, we're using parallel lines. This is parallel with this line here is parallel with that line. And we can do a little hole in there so it looks like you can see into it like so. Okay. What we'll have a look at next then is to try and draw some objects. So something like this, if we imagine that actually this eraser is going out the other way, so it's not a rounded kind of tip to it, which I can't do. So it looks like so. Okay. We'll have a look at trying to draw that. So the same kind of thing applies. We'll start off with drawing the vertical line. Goes up at 30 degrees. And sometimes kind of feeling that 30-degree line, if you do just kind of move your hand without touching the paper, you can get kind of a feeling for where it is. Okay. Another line at the end. Line across, so it's a little bit wider on the top, so I'm going to make that top a little bit wider as well. So we've got something like so. We're going to do it lightly down here. So I've got my simple kind of sleeve part for the eraser. Now it's made out of card, it's very, very thin card. So the line through there is the open sleeve. Okay, so that's what I can kind of see. If I can tilt it towards the camera, so I'm kind of seeing it from that kind of viewpoint, so I can see the line inside. So if I want the eraser popping out, like I've got on here, then same rules apply. 30 degrees. In fact, make it pop out quite a lot. So it's slightly rounded. We'll look at rounded shapes a bit in the next video, but for the time being we've got something like so. Right, and then the last part of this is just some kind of tips really. What we want you to do is to either have a go at drawing the shapes on here, some of the shapes that you see. I'll show you how to do circles in a second. And the other thing that we often see is when you're doing sketching is to do hairy things. So if we were to draw a square, rather than doing solid confident lines like so, is people will tend to do this to kind of feel their way. Okay? Now that then is going to look kind of furry and hairy. It's not what we want. We want solid, confident lines. If you're trying to feel kind of the angle that you're going at, just hover your pencil over the paper till you're confident, and then you can do the lines. Okay? So we don't want any of this kind of hairy line stuff. We want confident sort of straight lines. Okay? Right. How to do circles then? So for instance, got a circular object here. Our lens cap. I'll move the paper along. Now, this circle, if I draw around it, circles will fit inside squares. And the way that they fit inside a square, I'll do that a bit darker, is it will hit the centre of the square. Okay, so you can see like so, here's the centre part. So in isometric, the same rules apply. So if we were going to draw a square in isometric, which would look something like so, it will hit the centre part of our square. Okay, so the centre of these lines. Then what we're doing is we're joining them up. Now this does take a bit of practice into a smooth shape, and the shape that should appear is an ellipse.